Hi there, and welcome back to Out There, a Cryptid podcast. I'm your host, Josh. On the 13th and last day of each month, I come out with a new episode focused on a cryptid that I find super fascinating and weird. And if you still don't know what a cryptid is, it is defined as an animal that has been claimed to exist but never proven to exist. Cryptids don't have to be supernatural or mythical beings, although many of them are. Some cryptids have actually become documented animals. Make sure you go and follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Out There Cryptids, and check out the posts I make for each episode and maybe send some suggestions you'd like to hear. I know today's episode was supposed to be about a terrifying and legendary cryptid, but that's going to have to wait until the 13th. We have some very, very exciting news that will be coming soon, so stay tuned. Lots of things are happening over here at Out There, and we are all so excited for you to see what we have in store. But instead of leaving you without an episode, I thought we could end February with a classic, our third listeners episode. So sit back and try to relax. But remember, all of these are true stories from people just like you. Let's dive in. Our first story comes from Eddie and tells a chilling tale about a chilling book that sounds like a horror movie. So a little background on me. I'm a musician who writes his own music. So about a year ago, I bought a copy of the Necromonicon, or the Shaman Book of the Dead, to try and find inspiration for an album. Me and my friends ended up reading out of it a few times, and shit started happening. The electronics in the house act up by themselves, and we heard that same hum. We decided to try and get rid of the book, but we couldn't. It would always come back. If I threw it out, it would end up back on my desk somehow. I gave it to someone else, but they gave it back. We burned it. Someone literally gives me another copy. We throw it away into the water. It shows up on C's doorstep. I cannot make this up. It was almost like the book was bound to us. The only reasonable thing I could think to do with it was maybe put it in a place that is as evil as it is. So I nailed it to a tree at Bullhead, and my witch friend did some voodoo stuff on it. IDK, I don't get into that stuff, but since the book has not been a problem and I haven't seen anything in the woods, we have heard the hum a few times and have many other fucked encounters, even hearing native music coming from the woods. But this is the big portion of it I can remember and restate. I hope you can maybe give me your opinion on everything we've seen, and I hope it perks your interest. Okay, so first off, the Necromonicon is a fictional grimoire or book of magic that has appeared in various works of horror fiction, especially those by the American writer H.P. Lovecraft. In Lovecraft's stories, the book is often described as an ancient, forbidden book of occult knowledge associated with dark rituals and cosmic entities. It is said to have been written by the Mad Arab. The book is supposed to contain information about otherworldly beings, forbidden spells, and an ancient cosmic secret that can drive readers insane. Now, Lovecraft did create the concept of this book in a shared universe that features cosmic horror and ancient, powerful, and malevolent beings. But that doesn't mean what happened to Eddie isn't true. There are real historical grimoires. These grimoires have been created and used by various occult traditions throughout history. There's the Key of Solomon, which is a medieval grimoire attributed to King Solomon and provides instructions for summoning spirits and performing various magical operations. There's also the Book of Abramelin, which is attributed to the Jewish mystic Abraham of Worms, and outlines a system of summoning only one's holy guardian angel and gaining magical powers. Now, there are many, many more that harbor dark magic or instructions on how to conjure dark energy as well. I think that it is irresponsible for us to not believe something like this isn't out there. Clearly, there is some other power at play in this world that we do not have all the answers to. Could it be magic? Could it be paranormal activity? Or could it be the imagination? This is such a fascinating concept, though, so we are definitely adding this to the list of future episodes. The good news is Eddie and his friends are okay. For now. This next story is from Mary Ruth and brings us into the paranormal world. The only cryptid I have encounters with have been ghosts. These next few stories are for myself and other coworkers at a horse farm that I work at. The property, that is the farm, was once many separate properties, and there are few marked and unmarked but documented graves around the barns and fields. They are cared for and respected, but the occupants like to make themselves known occasionally. Personally, I have had experiences with disembodied voices and one shadow figure. I was working at a barn this past winter, and my barn partner would often leave me alone to tend to the horses we had in the barn while she checked the horses in the fields. It was kind of spooky, but nothing too ominous. One day I was finishing cleaning a stall on one end of the barn, and at the other end I heard two men talking to each other. I went out to see, thinking it was the bosses, but there was no one around and no vehicles leaving the paths to the barns. Later, I was sitting in the break room, and it sounded like someone walking down the bar row with a lead rope clicking the clasp as they walked. I got up and looked, and again, no one around. Then, on the other end of the barn, I heard the sound of someone putting a food bucket in a stall. They have 3 clasps that make distinct noises when being carried or hung up in the stall. After my partner returned, I told them about it, and they said that everyone in the farm has had some kind of experience like that. And they had even heard what sounded like a horse rustling through the straw in an empty stall with no straw. Then, as we sat talking later in the day, we both heard a woman giggle from around the corner from where we were. There wasn't anyone there but us. After that, I hated being at the barn alone, and it was very unsettling. Though it seems like it was just a barn going about its business from bygone time, there was one day, after all that, I heard the ghost horse. It just shifted in the stall, rustling straw and snorted. It was quite interesting. First off, what? I mean, the woman's giggle would have been the last straw for me. No pun intended. But this is actually a very common thing people who own or work at barns deal with. Many indigenous cultures, religions, and belief systems incorporate the idea that animals possess spiritual significance, and some traditions suggest that animals can act as messengers between the physical and spiritual realms. So maybe it's the fact that these animals can see spirits, so they hang around there a lot. Or maybe it's because a lot of barns have been around for a long time. Either way, this certainly isn't the only haunted barn. It does somewhat sound fun to work there and be on your toes at all times, but speaking from someone who grew up in a haunted house, it's not always fun and games. Let's get back to some cryptids. We've got a sighting from Fernando about a hound we know all too well. Hey, I just listened to your podcast about hellhounds and figured I'd share an experience I had in Colorado with what I believe was a hellhound. First off, my name is Fernando, and I'll try to keep the story short for convenience. It was a few years ago, and I was walking home from a friend's place. We lived down the street from each other in Colorado Springs. It was a typical walk that night, about 1 a.m., nothing out of the ordinary. I have made that walk thousands of times before. There are 5 cross streets, and once I got to the 3rd street crossing, I got an intense feeling of goosebumps. The hair on my neck stood up, so I just stopped. When I looked to my left, I saw a very large dog standing under a streetlight, about 100 feet away. It had glowing red eyes. Imagine like car brake lights, just a deep, bright red. However, this wasn't just a dog. It was too dark, almost like it was a void of light in the shape of a dog, like someone had photoshopped it in real life. My mind went blank. It was like I was in a trance when I looked at its eyes. We stood motionless for about 10 seconds before I looked away and kept walking, not even acknowledging its existence. When I got home, I just started crying. I don't know why. I wasn't sobbing, just uncontrollable, emotionless tears streaming from my eyes. If you know me, I don't cry often, maybe once every few years. Now, the image of whatever I saw that night is burned into my memory, and every time I talk about it, the hair on my neck stands up. I get chills and my eyes start to tear up. I have no explanation for why this happens. I did some looking into it, and a hellhound seems to be the likely answer. Before that, I didn't know what a cryptid was, because I just wasn't into that sort of thing. I had never even heard about hellhounds before that day. Now, though, I listen and look into many different cryptids and am very interested. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, this is such a good sighting of a hellhound. Thankfully, it didn't seem to be a messenger of death for Fernando. Hellhounds are mythical and supernatural dogs that are often associated with the underworld or realms of the supernatural. In some folklore, encountering a hellhound is considered an omen of death, but that isn't the case for Fernando. But seeing or hearing a hellhound is believed a foreshadowing of a tragic event or an intimate passing of someone else. So maybe that is what this sighting was, an omen of something to come. But hopefully it was just right place at right time. The next story is from Sam and goes to a different kind of cryptid, one that may be in the sky above you right now. Hello. I wanted to reach out and tell you my story of seeing a UFO after hearing all of your listeners' stories. I figured you might want to hear one of mine. For context, I'm from the rural Appalachian in Pennsylvania, and seeing/being aware of cryptids and whatnot is definitely something that is common. However, this one day we saw something completely different. My boyfriend and I were coming home from the gym. It was nighttime, like really late at night. We got out of our cars in the parking lot of my college apartment, and we were just making small talk. But it was super, super quiet that night. Kind of an uneasy quiet. Suddenly, from my right, a large green ship of sorts flew over. It was bright, bright green, and my boyfriend and I both paused to look up at it. I can't stress enough how large it was. It was larger than a plane and flying very low. Definitely lower than where a plane would fly. My boyfriend and I both going to each other like, "Did you just see that?" I didn't get to include the rest, but essentially, it was the lowest flying, right around the treetops, and pretty much silent. It had like an aura of glowing green, and I was totally freaked out. I had never seen it again, or anything that even remotely looked like it, but I swear my life was standing still. Okay, what? This is wild and sounds so similar to what many other people have witnessed. The silent flight is something many witnesses have claimed to have seen during UFO encounters. But Sam's sighting was around the Appalachian mountain range. And let me tell you, this place is wild. I don't want to get into it here because we will have an episode where we talk all about it. So stay tuned. We've got a great story from Zoe. The story begins when I was asleep. It was about 2 to 3 a.m., which some people believe it's called the witching hour. Okay, so that night I was awoken up by the sound of something rustling outside. And our front yard was filled with plants, exotic ones to be exact. So when I turned around to look out the window, I saw a shadow move. A shadow with a hat. A top hat, to be specific. At first I thought it was an intruder because our gate was only 6 feet tall. So what I did is I woke up my mother. She checked outside to find nothing, like literally nothing. I was shocked and scared, so we both slept in the same bed that night. The Hat Man cometh. Classic Hat Man right there. He's just coming around to get his scares in and then leaving. But isn't it wild that this phenomenon continues to occur all around the world? This is a major thing that I don't even know how we'd be able to get to the bottom of. But we should. Or else we'll all just be victims of the Hat Man for forever. Here's a creepy story from an anonymous sender. My entire childhood, my father and I used to take late-night walks due to his insomnia from shift work. Our neighborhood is considered very safe and was an urban neighborhood beside one of the roads towards the back of the neighborhood, being lined with thick forests for about a mile and about a quarter deep, which made a circle back on itself. All of these walks are very dear memories of mine, except one, and it ended being the last one. Along the road, with the tree line, there was a single street light to illuminate a small plot of land that someone owned, but was very overgrown and ill-kept. It was very common for us to walk this road to enjoy sounds of the forest, the lack of illumination, and the ease of circling back. One ordinary night, as we were walking and making conversation, my father abruptly stops, pulls me close, puts a hand over my mouth, crouches with me, and points towards the single illuminated plot roughly 100 yards away. At first, I didn't see anything, and I thought he was pulling my leg, but just as I began to protest his gasp, I see a very small humanoid figure, roughly 3 feet in height, scrawny, with long limbs, materialize out of the plot's brush line and cautiously take its surroundings in before signaling towards the brush. After a few seconds, 2 other small humanoid figures materialized as well. After a brief moment of what looked to be a discussion, all 3 make a dash for the forestry line. Once this happened, my father picked me up, threw me over his shoulder, and made a break for our home, which was roughly a half-mile back. Mind you, my father is 6'5", 220 pounds, and I was roughly 120 pounds at this time, and he never showed signs of slowing, due to his fear and adrenaline. After this night, we never took late-night walks. He instilled our 4 bright motion detection lights around our acre plot and brought home a dog. The few times I've tried to bring it up, he doesn't want to discuss, and made it clear he never wanted to. Those figures still give me chills, and the image of the 3 huddled together is very vivid 15 years later. Spooked yet? What I really like about this sighting is how realistic it is. Like, these creatures were doing whatever they were doing, and these people happened upon them. Now, as for what those figures could be, sounds like a couple different kinds of cryptids. One could be something we haven't talked about yet. Maybe they saw some gnomes. Yes, the garden ones with the funny pointed hats. Surprisingly, there have been many sightings that we will definitely cover in a future episode. Gnomes are often depicted as a small humanoid being that lives underground and are typically described as around 3 feet tall with pointy hats. That doesn't exactly fit this, but there is a similar cryptid called the duende that may be closer. In various Latin American folklore, especially in Spanish-speaking cultures, duendes are small, gnome-like beings. They are known for their mischievous behavior and are often depicted as around 3 feet tall. Some possible video evidence does show that these creatures may have long arms that they can use to run on like primates. Of course, we are going to talk more about these in a future episode as well, but I still don't think we found our culprit. It sounds like what this father and child pair saw were aliens. Perhaps they came across a recently landed UFO, or a couple rogue aliens roaming Earth. But since the description is so vague, the possibility of what they really encountered is endless. Only 2 more to go, so if you aren't scared yet, you're about to be. And if you already are scared, well, good luck with this next one. This was sent in by John. I was walking to meet up with my friend. I live in Connecticut, so as far as I knew, there was nothing here that could be a cryptid or unknown to us. Well, I was walking at around 11 p.m. to go meet up with my friend to chill for a little. I approached this house, specifically the garage, because I cut through the yard. As I came closer to the garage, I noticed my friend. It was him. I did our call with a ch-ch sound, and this thing just looked at me. With his face, every detail was the same, and it was a full moon that night, so I could see him very clearly. I got closer, called his name, and it gave no response. I just thought he was being a freak and fucking with me, so I continued on my way and Snapchatted him asking what the hell he was doing. He shortly sent me a Snapchat picture of him at a bowling alley in town, about 30 minutes away. This was all within 5 to 10 minutes of the sighting. I never saw anything again, but from then on, I wasn't much of a night person anymore. I still can't shake the eerie and dreadful feeling I had when I saw that thing. I tend to not talk about the subject because of how much it genuinely scares me. I still can't think of what that thing was, but it mocked the appearance of my friend. This experience has seriously freaked me out, and I still refuse to walk alone at night. Freaked you out there, didn't I? I mean, this is such a classic case of a doppelganger, it's not even funny. And it is a good thing that that friend was out bowling, because had he been home, who knows what would have happened. Okay, time for our last story. And it's about the cryptid we will cover in the next episode. This story is from our talented artist, Jeremy. At the time, I lived in a house with about 100 feet of back lawn that ended at the forest. One night, I was getting into my car, my driveway behind my house, and I heard something. I looked up and saw something white and hunched, like a very large dog, near the woods, sort of moving back and forth, getting gradually closer. I could hear sticks crunching as it shimmered, not so much catching moonlight as projecting light itself. It eventually went behind a tree in the yard out of sight. I got in my car and backed up and angled so my lights would shine on it. Then I saw it back on the edge of the woods, but walking upright, with a pronounced gait, still all white, head to feet, and seemed taller than a normal person. I eventually lost sight again as it walked away. Never could think of anything close to what this was. The new rake phenomenon doesn't quite work, but it's as close as anything I've seen. Let me tell you, I would absolutely never want to encounter a rake. And I don't want to go too much into this sighting because you're going to learn all about this crazy cryptid on the 13th. But let's just say Jeremy is lucky that it walked away, because these cryptids aren't known for being friendly. So, what do you think? Are cryptids really out there? We are on Instagram, @OutThereCryptids, so make sure to follow us and tell us all of your thoughts on the cryptids we cover and what you'd like to hear next. It would mean a lot to us if you go to rate us on Spotify or go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It's a great way for others to find the podcast and enjoy, just like you. On the 13th, I will be covering a terrifying cryptid, a hairless creature with long limbs and large, empty eyes, known for being a relentless stalker, silently hunting and terrorizing its victims. We are talking about the rake. See you next time. This episode was written and hosted by me, Josh, with logo design by Jason Zykes and theme music from purpleplanet.com.